My name is Mahbub Jokhio. I am from Mirapur. I'm a Sindhi artist based in Lahore, where I mostly teach, work, and live. My practice never restricted to any single medium and subject matter. Basically, it's kind of an inquiry of the images as a whole that we see in our daily life. And these inquiries incorporate dark humor, irony, and self-referential critiques.
So if we do it in columns, if it does go off, it's going to be really awful.
The title of the show is In the City of Lost Times, and having a literary background, I tend to refer to the literary themes that I read, and this title is from a poetic line from an Urdu poet. So this whole body of work revolves around the main subject, which is graveyard. And in Pakistan, normally graveyard is a place which is not activated frequently by the visitors, and mostly graveyards end up being very scary places, and people don't often go and visit the graves. So this project is kind of a suggestion to make people realize about the death and their loved ones. There are some photographic works plus video works and a large installation of photographic images. In the atrium, there are 99 prints of the gravestones of women who died in Lahore. It's basically, these are images from a certain graveyard in Lahore, which is called Miani Sahib. For me, the death of a woman is so terrible that I can't stand. And so basically this is a kind of a homage to the women as a whole. Each image, each gravestone kind of becomes an autobiographical account of that woman, because it actually addresses, some of them actually addresses their address with names and whole, kind of address. And actually some of them don't even mention the names of the women, because in our, in our country, due to the religious things, women are not called by their names so often on a daily basis, So it becomes kind of a identity crisis for the women, Even when they are dead, they are not given their identity, which should be given. The 99 number has a very religious connotation to it. It's a limited number, but at the same time, it's a symbol for infinity, I want viewers to take the idea of cherishing the memory of their loved ones which are gone, and to use the graveyard as a frequent and on a daily basis kind of a site, where life could happen, and you could go there with your children, with your friends, and have a good time over there,
If the room was dark.
Yeah, let's try that.
I'm Madiha Aijaz. I'm an artist and I work with photographs, films primarily, and I'm based in Karachi in Pakistan. I'm interested in public spaces, and I'm also interested in public spaces in the context of changing urban landscapes and changing urban environments. Recently, I've been looking at the public libraries in Karachi, and it is the largest city in Pakistan. And as it's constantly, going through development. Buildings are coming up. There's a lot of construction happening, and how that's changing the environment. How people are finding certain spaces, certain quiet spaces, such as libraries, a sort of a refuge. So this exhibition at the Tetley came about in collaboration with the Karachi Biennale and with Liverpool Biennial. Towards the end of last year, I had shown some work at the Karachi Biennale, and that's where this exhibition is also stemming from. It's another iteration of that work that I had made for the Karachi Biennale. So the exhibition has some images, some photographs, some films that I've been filming over a period of time, and there is a little bit of text also, but primarily the exhibition consists of the photographs and films. So the central film, All These Silences Are All the Words, is sort of centered around this particular library in Karachi. A lot of libraries were set up by the migrant communities in 1947 when the Indian subcontinent was partitioned. A lot of people migrated from India to Pakistan and vice versa. So some of these communities were given amenity plots, and they've made these libraries. They formed these libraries carrying the books that they brought with them. So the piece is sort of a reflection on some of these books that they carried, what kind of languages sort of were brought because of that kind of material, and how the sort of how do libraries become sort of a lens to look at the migrant communities in the city.
अच्छा हो सकता है बेगम ने किस जतन से पकाई थी दाल लगने लगा बघार तो बिजली चली गई ये सब इनायत अली खान है बिजली चली गई.
The title of the exhibition comes from how the libraries are supposed to be these quiet spaces, but as I started photographing and working in these libraries, I saw that there was this sort of this intelligentsia which isn't part of this Urdu speaking intelligentsia that isn't at times. I wasn't in contact with them, or it wasn't so easy to come in contact with them in a post-colonial city, and the kind of literary traditions they were carrying and the kind of intellectual interests that they had. So in a way, it kind of, the silences became sentences and conversations for me. I mean, it's a centimeter. The print is smaller. My interest is also in how, what were some of the things, what were some of the threads that emerged from partition and from being part of a post-colonial state. So I hope that some of these reflections on these libraries and how they're a lens onto the cities of Pakistan will open up conversations, new conversations and alternate ways of looking at these towns, these places which were once part of the empire too.
My name is Nick Hurston. I'm a writer and an editor, and I make artworks. I also teach. I teach here at the University of Leeds in the School of Fine Art, Art History and Cultural Studies. The title of the exhibition is a translation a contested translation actually, of an engraving that was found during an archaeological dig of an ancient Egyptian site, where the pharaoh in question had various rooms coming off the main chamber of their burial site, and one of them had this inscription, which would come into English as something very like the house that heals the soul. And the house in that phrase was thought to refer to the private library of this pharaoh. And if it's right, and there's a contest over what that word might mean, but if it's right, then it's maybe the first library ever found. The exhibition was first shown last summer at the Centre for Contemporary Arts in Glasgow, where a display of contemporary artworks that engage with the theme of libraries, mostly public libraries, was put on show. And then in the third and smallest gallery of the centre, a publishing studio was installed. This show is based on an archive of that show from Glasgow, but flips the focus. So the main thing here is the functioning publishing studio. The exhibition design is pretty simple. It's a long table that symbolically shows you the workflow that will go from the beginnings of manuscript production at a terminal like a computer, would run through collation, printing and testing, and then goes out from the printers and is available for finishing, for folding, creasing, cutting, stapling, and that sort of thing. So we have the whole production flow of publishing here. In the smaller gallery, we have like a reading room of all the archival material, some examples of the zines, booklets, chapbooks, and that sort of thing that were made in Glasgow. It's a space to contemplatively engage with the material in there, the material produced in the studio, but to read and talk. There's a lip shelf running continuously through all of the galleries in the exhibition, in both spaces, and that's a space to be filled. It's waiting for content, it's waiting for people to come here, produce and publish, and add that to the ongoing library that will be produced during the show. So, in part, it's an exhibition in waiting. Public libraries, like public art galleries, had an amazing moment in the middle of the 19th century when it was enshrined in law that they would become vital parts of civic life all over Britain. That's sadly changed. And both of those institutions are under kinds of pressure from lots of different directions that are unprecedented. So what kinds of publicness can those two institutions enable? What kinds of being together, thinking together, making together can they enable? That's, I think, a set of really active and real questions now. And I think we have to try and find answers to all of those questions through experimentation. So this is a library that's about libraries, their current political and social status, but it's also a place for new library content to be produced. Libraries don't come from nowhere. They're full of things that people make. And it's in that spirit that this is not only a space for thinking about libraries, engaging with the literatures already from libraries, but a place for people to come and add to the libraries, to build them, to make them something of renewed value.